This is SHRM Radio in partnership with Timber Media, Podcasters for India Inc.
Hello everyone, this is Archana Jarrett tuning in with SHRM Radio, the place to catch up with leaders and have insightful conversations on all things work. SHRM is on air, and in this podcast we will be discussing the very important topic of women at the workplace. While the representation of women is growing, especially in Tier 1 cities, India's female workforce participation remains one of the lowest in the world at 26% against a global average of 49%. So today with me is Ms. Apurva Purohit, who is the president of the Jagran Group. She is an extremely successful leader and a role model to so many women in India. Apurva is a leading voice advocating gender diversity in the Indian business landscape, and she has authored a national bestseller for working women titled Lady, You're Not a Man, and recently, Lady, You're the Boss. Apurva, welcome to SHRM Radio.
Thank you, Archana.
So Apurva, what is this one phrase that you never want to hear related to women at the workplace? What gets your goat the most?
That women don't support other women. Every talk that I go to, someone asks me this question. And I just don't believe it, and bothers me a lot that we are perpetuating this myth that women don't support other women.
Okay, and have you experienced otherwise?
Of course, throughout my career, I've had great women bosses. Throughout my career, I myself have helped a lot of women. I see my women colleagues help and be role models to junior women. So I just don't believe this. I think this is a myth that has been perpetuated from us watching too many of the Saas Bahu serials where the Saas is always the enemy of the Bahu. And so it is at the workplace.
No, absolutely wonderful. And I totally agree with you. I think that's a myth created by movies and serials. And Apurva, you've had such an incredibly successful career. You're a role model to women everywhere. Does it bother you that women who reach leadership levels are tagged as women leaders? After all, I've never heard the phrase man leader.
Absolutely, Archana. It bothers me tremendously. It bothers me that the default gender of leadership is always seen as male. So whenever you think of a leader, it's automatically a male in general, and women get tagged as women leaders as if it's some rarity. So I think I'm as good, if not better, than most men I have met in leadership positions. But I win the most powerful woman award. I don't win a general leadership award, right? I get tagged as a woman leader who understands human resources, marketing, all the softer skills, HR, creativity, consumer behavior. But I think I understand P&L more than any other man. I understand a balance sheet more than any other man. But I'm not seen as that complete business leader, which is an automatic tag that is given to men. So obviously, yes, it does bother me a lot. And I'm hoping that it changes when we see many more women in leadership positions around us.
And what will make that change happen?
Archana, I think the change will happen, as I just said, if you see more women leaders around. The fact is that while I may rail against this tag of a woman leader, there are very few women leaders. Less than 5% at the leadership level are women. So unless we see them visibly, and that's the other problem. So if we can see, there may be, let's say 10%, but we get to see only 3% of them. That also has to change. So whether it is in a panel discussion. So recently in one of the articles, one of my publications wrote, the cover story was about how corporate leaders are dealing with this crisis. And all the 6 photographs were male. I took it up very strongly that why did you not put a single woman leader? Because naturally that's then what triggers in everybody's mind. Leadership equals man. So if we see visible role models, I think it will change faster.
That's an excellent point. So to this fact, you've written 2 books, Apurva. One is Lady, You're Not a Man, and Lady, You're the Boss. What is the underlying message that you want to share with women everywhere through these books, or people everywhere rather?
The underlying message in both the books is that women have to take control of their destiny. They can choose to play a victim. They can choose to play a bystander in their life by having given away the control of their life to their husbands, their fathers, their mother-in-laws, their mothers, or they can choose to play the heroine of their life. And I think the choice ultimately rests with the woman herself. what choice is she making? So I want to embolden women to take control of that choice and decide for themselves what they want to make out of their lives, out of their careers, out of their businesses, out of their entrepreneurships. So that's the fundamental underlying message. The second message is that we have been socialized to minimize ourselves. So when we bring up our daughters, we bring them up to be lesser than what they are, to not talk loudly, to not laugh loudly, to not be opinionated enough, not to wear red lipstick, not to wear short dresses. I think that socialization makes us be far more tentative and far more willing to erase ourselves and play secondary roles. I think that is the thing I'm trying to again tell women, that become more visible, become vocal, stand up for yourself. After all, we've heard this quote that the master's tools will not break the master's house. So you have to come up with your own format of behavior, which is not the socialization that you got as you were growing up. And you have to change your destiny by being opinionated, standing up for what matters, by being visible, vocal, colorful, loud, as much as you want.
So Apurva, you brought up a very important point of, how it happens while we're all growing up, and, there's certain things, certain conditions put on girls as they're growing up. Some of it is, concern, safety. Some of it is related to, just the way that our society and culture is. So how difficult is that to change after a particular age or a period of time when you've grown up continually with that kind of conditioning?
So when I'm talking to younger women, I'm asking them to not allow this to happen to them. But when I talk to a slightly older woman, that's a very pertinent point you raised, that now I'm 45, 50, and I've been brought up to be the secondary citizen. So at this age, how can I make a change? I think change is possible at any level. The first thing is the recognition that this is happening to me. The recognition that when I go out in a restaurant, I let my husband order what I want to eat. The recognition is that I may be a successful doctor outside, but when I come home, in my house, I'm playing the role of a wife or a mother or a daughter or a sister. And that role is subsuming my individuality. The recognition itself can be the first marker of change, and I think that can happen at any level. So I keep narrating this anecdote. My mother's 79. So when I wrote my first book, I dedicated it to her, and she saw it and she called me up and she said, "I thought you're dedicating this book to me." I said, "I've done that. See the first page, it's written to Mummy." So she says, "It's written to Mummy. Where is my name?" And that sort of triggered this, epiphany in my mind. Is yes, it's so right. We are defined as mummy, daughter of Mrs. Sharma, daughter-in-law of that nasty Mrs. Bhatia in 204, mother of Vivek, etc. Where is my individuality? And therefore, if you see my second book, it is written to Asha Kanwar, my mother. And that recognition came to her at 79. So why can't it come to all of us when we are 30 and 40 and 50?
Wow, amazing. So Apurva, let's hold that conversation. We'll be right back. This is SHRM Radio, and I'm in conversation with Apurva Purohit, president of the Jagran Group.
You are listening to SHRM Radio in partnership with Timber Media, podcasters for India Inc.
Hello everyone, welcome back to SHRM Radio. I'm Archana Jarat, and with me today is Apurva Purohit, who is the president of the Jagran Group, and we are talking about busting the glass ceiling. So Apurva, you've stated, I read somewhere that you don't believe that it's the glass ceiling which is the problem, but it's more about the leaky pipeline. So what are systemic changes that are needed in the workplace, in businesses?
Archana, it's absolutely right. We have focused too much on the fact that there are not enough women at the top, and we've done a lot to try and change that, whether it is through board reservations, whether it is through pushing the fact that at a CXO level we require more women. But actually it is about the leaky pipeline. There are at the entry level in any organization, in any business, in any part of the world, there are 30 to 40% women entering the workforce. But by the middle manager level, half of them have dropped out. And by the senior manager level, 2/3 of the women who were left have dropped out. So we have to take care of this leaky pipeline. If I get only a pool of 15% to choose from for the leadership, I'm not going to look at women. I need to increase that pool at the middle management level to at least 30%. So what are the systemic changes we can make? I think there are a lot of things we can do. Organizations have done some things partially, which is, having flexi timings and creches and supporting women when they go through that initial child bearing and child rearing phase. So that's one part. However, I think two fundamental changes we have to make at a systemic level. One is the fact that in organizations, we have to get rid of this patriarchal bias. So I see a lot of organizations who are very caring about the women, but in this desire to be caring, they end up bonsaiing them by giving them lesser roles. I mean, no, you can't do a late night shift. You're a woman. I can't give you this tough client because you're a woman. I can't get you to work in this project because it requires 200 days of travel, without even checking with the woman whether she wants to do that or not. And this is so subconscious that it's not even visible. So how do you fight it? So I think the men leaders who are listening to this podcast need to ask themselves that, am I bonsaiing my women by trying to be overprotective? And I need to get rid of this paternalistic bias. I need to give them exactly the same tough roles that I give my male employees. That's the most important systemic change. And the other thing is men themselves. At home, how are they behaving? If their wives have become hunters, are our men becoming nurturers? Are they taking an equal share of the housework? Hello?
Hello. Sorry, I think I lost the network in the middle. Are you guys able to hear me?
Now we can. Hello?
I was silent. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Now we can.
Sorry about that. Okay. Great. So, sorry, Akhil, were you able to hear Purva clearly? Because I just completely lost the last couple of lines.
Yes, no problem. It's fine. Right now, fine.
Okay, so then sorry about that. We'll just move to the next question then.
Yeah.
So Apurva, what is your opinion about the way that today corporate India is approaching the whole, and that goes beyond just women at the workplace, but diversity and inclusion in terms of, the kind of quotas, like you mentioned, even on the boards, there is, a requirement to have at least one woman director, or in organizations, this is a metric that is often reviewed in terms of the percentage of women in every team, in every, project, all of that. Do you think that's the right way to approach the whole issue of women being underrepresented at the workplace?
A lot of women leaders are against reservations and quotas. They believe that, a woman should reach wherever she needs to reach on her own merit, etc. I personally don't subscribe to that view in the short term, because if we don't have quotas and reservations, I can assure you that women will get locked out. For some reason, there seems to be one invisibility cloak that surrounds women managers and women leaders. All the decision makers at the top currently are men. So it's natural that when they look for a board member, or they look for a CEO, or they look for a CXO,
has left the meeting,
and the men around them, because people obviously want people like themselves to come and surround them. So unless there are reservations and quotas, we will not be able to push women up the pipeline. And in the short run, I am very much for the reservations and quotas. And we can see that despite there being reservations, I think I was reading an article recently which said nearly 30 to 40% companies still don't have a woman director. So
wow.
So despite that, this change is not happening. So I think we need to have quotas for some more time.
Okay. I know you've shared a lot of advice as we've gone along this conversation, but what's the one big advice that you'd like to give women to flourish at the workplace?
I think the biggest advice I would give women would be to remember two things. One is that a career is not an either or. Most women come from this perspective that either I can have a great family life or I can have a great career. But the reality is that you can do both. You can have a great career and a great family life and be a great mother and wife and daughter and daughter-in-law, provided you look around and ask for support, whether you ask for support from your family or you ask for support from your organization. Getting that support, getting your family to collaborate in your career will ensure that you can make the best of both worlds. But the mindset change that has to happen, that in your mind you have to recognize that it is an and, not an or. Just as it is for your male colleague. Nobody asks him, so now that you're getting married, will you stop working? Why do they ask them this question? Because in her mind, it's her choice. So let that not be a choice. The second thing is, a lot of women come and tell me that, look, I'm so independent. I didn't change my surname. Look, I'm so independent. I go on holidays on my own. But I think the true, genuine independence is financial independence. Are you independent that you are able to manage your life and lifestyle by the money that you earn? You need to answer the question. That according to me is the true independence.
Fantastic advice, Apurva. I think women tend to apologize for choosing careers and, trying to make that choice a bit too much.
Yes.
And that's brilliant advice from your end. Thank you so much. It's been such a wonderful conversation. I'm sure it's going to inspire so many women, whether they are working or whether they're thinking of getting back to the work or starting out in their careers. Really appreciate having you here today.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you for inviting me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening into SHRM Radio, which is in partnership with Timber Media Podcasters. Stay tuned as we'll come back next Wednesday at 10 a.m. with another great conversation on all things work. Until then, stay safe and stay positive.
This is SHRM Radio in partnership with Timber Media, Podcasters for India Inc.